Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, a guide to righteous living. The Sermon on the Mount, one of the most profound discourses in the Christian tradition, is found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapters 5 to 7. Delivered by Jesus on a mountainside in Galilee, this sermon outlines the principles of righteous living and provides a moral compass for Christians and non-Christians alike. It is a blueprint for a life centered on faith, humility, love, and righteousness, offering teachings that are as relevant today as they were over 2,000 years ago. The Beatitudes, the heart of the sermon. The Sermon on the Mount begins with the Beatitudes, a series of blessings that describe the attitudes and qualities that lead to true happiness and spiritual fulfillment. These declarations of blessedness set the tone for the entire sermon, emphasizing the values of humility, mercy, purity of heart, and a hunger for righteousness. Jesus declares, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." This opening statement reveals the paradoxical nature of the Beatitudes, where true spiritual wealth comes from recognizing one's spiritual poverty and dependence on God. The Beatitudes are not just a list of virtues but a radical call to a transformed life. They challenge conventional notions of success and happiness, urging believers to seek God's kingdom and His righteousness above all else. The promise of the Beatitudes is that those who embody these qualities will experience God's favor and ultimately inherit His kingdom. Salt and light, the call to influence. Following the Beatitudes, Jesus uses two powerful metaphors to describe the role of His followers in the world: salt and light. "You are the salt of the earth," He says, "but if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned?" Matthew 5 verse 13. Salt, in ancient times, was essential for preserving food and enhancing its flavor. Similarly, Christians are called to preserve the moral fabric of society and to bring out the best in others through their godly influence. "You are the light of the world," Jesus continues, "a city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden." Matthew 5 verse 14. Light is a symbol of truth, goodness, and the revelation of God's will. Jesus' followers are called to shine brightly in a dark world, guiding others to the truth of God's love and righteousness. This call to be salt and light underscores the responsibility of Christians to live out their faith in a way that positively impacts those around them. Fulfilling the law, a higher standard of righteousness. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus also addresses the law of Moses, affirming its validity but calling His followers to a higher standard of righteousness. "Do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets," He declares. "I did not come to destroy but to fulfill." Matthew 5 verse 17. Jesus goes on to reinterpret several commandments, demonstrating that true righteousness goes beyond mere external compliance to the law and requires a transformation of the heart. For example, He teaches that anger, not just murder, is subject to judgment, and that lustful thoughts are as sinful as adultery. By elevating the demands of the law, Jesus emphasizes the importance of inner purity and integrity, calling His followers to be holy in thought, word, and deed. This higher standard of righteousness is not meant to be a burden but an invitation to live in deeper communion with God, relying on His grace to transform and empower us. The Lord's Prayer, a model for spiritual living. In the heart of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus gives His disciples a model for prayer, known as the Lord's Prayer. This prayer encapsulates the essence of righteous living, beginning with an acknowledgement of God's holiness and sovereignty. "Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name." Matthew 6 verse 9. It expresses a longing for God's kingdom to come and His will to be done on earth as it is in heaven, reflecting the desire of every believer to align their life with God's purposes. The Lord's Prayer also emphasizes dependence on God for daily needs, the importance of forgiveness, and the need for spiritual protection. It serves as a reminder that righteous living is not about self-reliance but about trusting in God's provision and grace. By teaching His disciples to pray in this way, Jesus underscores the importance of a vibrant, personal relationship with God as the foundation of righteous living. Conclusion: a call to radical discipleship. The Sermon on the Mount concludes with a call to radical discipleship, urging believers to build their lives on the solid foundation of Jesus' teachings. Those who hear his words and put them into practice, Jesus says, are like a wise man who built his house on the rock. When the storms of life come, this house stands firm because it is grounded in truth. In a world filled with shifting values and moral confusion, the Sermon on the Mount remains a timeless guide to righteous living. It challenges us to live counterculturally, to embody the values of God's kingdom, and to shine as lights in a world that desperately needs hope and direction. Through these teachings, Jesus invites us into a life of deeper faith, greater love, and unwavering commitment to his way of righteousness.